What's going on? It's your boy Flicarguy back with another video. So I don't know which video will come out first, but basically I have all this time obviously because of Corona and whatnot, so I've been looking to upgrade stuff. So I was working on the Maserati, but as we can see, check for the other video to see what's going on in here. But as you can see, it's pulled to pieces. Long story short, something's wrong with the auxiliary input of the vehicle itself that I have to figure out. So I have to leave it like this until I figure that out before putting it all together. But got the touchscreen working, CarPlay working, everything. The sound through the auxiliary is a problem, so I have to come back to this one. In the meantime, I decided I'll take on a project in the other daily, my girlfriend's BMW X3. So she loves hip-hop, she loves sound systems and big sound and stuff like that, and has been asking me for a long time about putting something in to give her a little extra bump, because in my other car I have a little setup. So finally I decided, since I have the time, we're gonna do a little upgrade. So we are going to put this bad boy in. Kicker Comp R 12-inch ported. This escalated quickly because initially I was gonna just keep it simple and do a nice little 10-inch in a small box. And then I started to think about how much trap music she listens to and how much she loves bass. So I was like, okay, well, let me just upgrade to like a 12-inch instead. But then the supplier didn't have the original box I wanted, which was a bit cheaper than this one because it was less power. It was like 300 watts. So now here we are with the 12-inch ported 500 watt RMS box, which is probably unnecessary, but I don't like skimping on sound. Some people might ask, why go kicker? For me, I've always been a die-hard kicker person. Like from my first car, I had kicker in there. Second car, all my cars always have kicker. And part of the reason is they're not the best sounding speaker. I can go on record as saying that. Not the best sounding or whatever. But when you're talking about just bass and taking abuse and always working, they've always did me well. And of course, like I've said before on the channel, if you're new, then it's the first time you're hearing it, but I have a background in 12-volt electronics. So I've been an installer, I work on the tech support side, I install remote starters, security systems, sound systems, all types of stuff in the car, GPS, whatever. So luckily that affords me some relationships in the industry that allow me to get things at better prices where I normally wouldn't pay whatever they're charging retail. But when you can get it at a discount, then it makes it worth it. Anyways, so that's what I'm about to attempt to do right now. So we have the Kicker Comp R 12-inch. All came together like this in the box already mounted. I didn't feel like in other projects I've done, I'd do a custom box and all that, but I wanted to keep this as simple as possible because it's just a little upgrade. And then I decided to try this. This is an amplifier. Yes, this tiny thing is an amplifier. Audio control, 300 watts RMS. And if I have any guys that are die-hard audio guys and are gonna tell me, oh, the speaker's 500 watts RMS, you need an amp with just as much or more power so that it's clean, yes, you are correct. However, initially the box that I wanted to buy was a 300 watt RMS, and I know that this amplifier does more than 300 watts RMS. It's actually been tested to do up to 460 or 470 if the electrical is good. So that's why I initially decided to get it. The other reason was, as you can see, actually I can take out the box, let's do that. let's do a little unboxing. So we'll get a kind of 2-for-1 video today. We'll get a little upgrade DIY video as well as a little review. So as you can see, this thing is tiny. Like, it's one of the smallest amps I've ever seen, and for it to be 300 watts RMS, I was almost skeptical. But like I said, because I follow a lot of audio people that actually do dyno tests, I know that it actually makes its power, and Audio Control has always been an amazing brand when it comes to car audio. So few reasons why I went with the Audio Control, as this person with their noisy car backs up behind me. So yeah, couple reasons why I went with the Audio Control. So first reason being, it's a trusted brand. They've been making solid stuff for years, and they're really good at sound quality and using quality components on their units. So that was the first reason. Second reason was, this amplifier was essentially designed for the same purpose, for doing a factory upgrade. So that means I'm not gonna be changing the radio and doing all that kind of stuff. This is a 2018 X3, so obviously we're not gonna be taking out the screen and all this other stuff to put in something else. So we're gonna be keeping everything stock up front. And Audio Control is one of the companies that's been in the forefront of OEM integration. So being able to tie into your factory system and hook up aftermarket stuff to it. So that was the second reason. Third reason, Audio Control has a patented technology called AccuBase. There it is right there. So what AccuBase does is basically, I don't know if you ever notice, I'll talk to you guys for a while, front ways. I don't know if you guys ever notice in your car, like with a factory subwoofer or speakers, the louder you turn the volume up, the bass cuts out. So what's happening is the factory is basically rolling off the bass response so that you don't damage the speakers inside, so you don't blow the speakers. So what happens is, the more you turn the volume up, they start to cut the bass down so that there's not too much bass going through the speakers at high volumes, because they're not made to handle it. So that's great for your speakers inside your car, but what it's not great for is when you're tying into a factory system, you need to get that music signal from somewhere. So that means you have to get the music signal from the factory system. So what's going to happen is, you're going to get the signal to run your big speaker here, and as you turn up the volume inside your car, the signal going to your big speaker that you want to be booming is going to start to cut down. So your bass is going to die down just like the factory does, and that's no good, because we are putting this in because we want to shake some mirrors and we want to have some good sound. So what this AccuBase does is it compensates for that. So basically, let me get to my good side where the light is. So basically the AccuBase compensates for that. So to set it up, basically you turn up your system until it starts to cut the bass out, and you set a threshold, and the AccuBase will say, okay, at this point when the volume gets this high, I need to now start adding that bass back in, so that when we get to this guy, it's not losing any signal and getting your full bass output. So that was another reason I chose this, because otherwise what would happen was I'd have to get a separate amplifier to power the speaker, and then I'd need another separate processor to try to restore the bass. So this is an all-in-one solution. It will restore the bass, power the speaker, and also it's able to turn on just from getting a signal from sound, so I don't have to worry about running additional wiring. So this was the most simple solution, which is why I decided to go with this setup. I do admit I am a bit skeptical about running such a big subwoofer off of a small amplifier, but that's why I'm making this video. We're gonna see if 300 watts RMS rated is good enough to get some half decent sound out of 500 watts RMS rated, although I know these can take probably up to 750 watts RMS no problem if it's tuned properly. And that's another thing, power doesn't always mean it's going to be louder. I know a lot of guys see subwoofers and then you want to see, oh, it's a 1,000-watt subwoofer, or it says 2,000 watts on it. That's cool, but also depending on the brand you're looking at, 1,000 watts max rating is not necessarily 1,000 watts, because that means at maximum distortion right before the speaker explodes, it can do 1,000 watts. That's why you always want to look at RMS, which is the real power, continuous power that it's rated to handle. So when we're dealing with RMS, it's actually better if you have more power on your amplifier than your subwoofer is rated at. And the reason for that is you won't have to be playing your amplifier at its maximum potential. So that allows the amplifier to run more efficiently and run cooler. Because think about it, if you needed, say you were lifting weights and the maximum weight you could lift was 100 pounds. If you put 100 pounds onto the rack, to lift that 100 pounds, you're gonna have to give it your everything. You're probably only gonna be able to do 1 to 3 reps, and it's gonna put enormous strain on your body. Versus if you were to put 50 pounds on that rack, now you're exerting half of that energy or less, because it's not such a strain. You're not maxing out your power in your body lifting the load, which is essentially watts are a load. It's power, so it's a load. So just a little tip, when you're doing this stuff, it's always better to have more power on your amp than on your speaker. I know some people think it's gonna overpower the sub or whatever. Not true. If you have more power, it allows you to run your power more cleanly and efficiently, and the main proponent of that will be a strong electrical system. So having the correct wire, correct electrical system in your car that could actually handle the load of amperage from the amp and stuff like that. But anyways, that's a whole other video. I don't want to get too technical for the leisurely DIY guys. Just always try to, at very least, always try to match up the RMS rating of your amplifier to the RMS rating of your speaker. We'll keep it basic like that. So we're gonna see what happens when we hook all of this up. So in this car, thankfully it's kind of simple. Well, it should be simple, we'll see. Cause a lot of the stuff, pretty much everything's in the back here. So this is, took off a panel here. This is the factory amplifier for this BMW. So this is what powers the speakers currently in the car. So I'll be able to tap into the wiring harness here to get the signal from the stereo up front to feed into here, that's gonna feed into there. So I'm gonna have to grab my signal here, and then I'll pull this up, but the battery's right under here as well. So that's gonna be pretty much everything we need. It's just access to the battery and signal to hook up the amplifier. So let me take some of this stuff out and get to it.
A few moments later.
All right, so first step is complete. So basically, this is the plug that came out of this factory amp. So it's gonna have the signal from the music coming out of it. So basically, took some speaker wire, tapped into the line level inputs or outputs basically, and then these wires are gonna run into the speaker level inputs. I don't know if you can see that. Focus. Speaker level inputs. So quick note about this. There's two ways you can hook up most amplifiers. One is a speaker level input, So that means you're basically connecting directly from a speaker in the vehicle to take the signal for the music and plugging it in here. Or you have your line input, which is like your RCA plugs. So if you have something that has an RCA output, then you can use this. You never need to use both. It's one or the other. So in this car, we're going to be using this, and then the amp will automatically pick up on that and do what it needs to do to output the music through here into the subwoofer. We're going to turn on this GTO signal sense. So that basically is a technology that audio control has, where when this little input here detects music, it automatically turns the amplifier on to play. So instead of your traditional remote wire input, which is a wired connection to something that turns on with the car, we're going to use the signal sensing. So some just call it signal sense, some call it different things, but it's all the same thing basically. And you see signal sense, it means that it can sense music on here and turn the device on without having to run a separate wire to turn it on. So next up, I'm gonna run some wires to the battery. In this car, let me just quickly move this stuff out the way here. In this car, thankfully, the battery is right here. So easy to hook up power ground and run it right to there for the amplifier. So that's what's up next. Alright, so got it all hooked up here. So tapped into the speakers there, ran my power in from here. It's messy right now, but I'm gonna probably mount it up here somewhere like this. Speaker wire coming in, and it turns on, and it can actually play the speaker, but I can tell it's a bit under powered. So it plays it. It plays it, so we're gonna see if it's good enough or not. I don't know. I'm gonna see if it gets hot after a while, because beating on this 500 watts RMS, I don't know if it can handle it. So we gonna see. But yeah, it's done. Just need to clean it up, and then that's pretty much that. Just gonna play with the gains a little bit, see what it likes, what it doesn't like, and then that should be it for this. So there you have it. Quick install. I was taking my super time, not rushing through. Something like this probably take you hour and a half if you really knew what you were doing and going through. It wasn't bad at all, because everything was, battery is right under here, so it's easy to get to. Short run of wire directly there. Everything was right there. So it's a real quick, simple setup. So that's it for this video. Box is in. Put the amp there underneath the factory one. Didn't do anything too crazy, because this is hidden behind a panel. Left some slack here in case the box needs to be moved around, so left a little bit of slack back there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let my girl listen to it. She's the static. It's what she wanted, so I'll leave it for now, but I'm gonna monitor it because the amp was getting pretty hot because it was getting put under so much load. So I'm gonna see if it cuts out or goes into protection or anything. If it does, might have to upgrade this, but for now it's good, so we'll let it rock. So there you have it. To quickly go back over everything, adding the sub to the factory system, tapped into the factory amp to get the signal, went into the high level speaker input, and then subwoofer output, and then ran my power wires from the battery right to here, and that was pretty much it. No remote wire needed. It turns on when music starts playing. So that was it. Pretty simple install. I'm impressed somewhat that this little tiny amp could play this big speaker, but this is not to its maximum potential, but it still plays very good, plays very deep. More than anything, that's what it was about. Like the bottom end was missing. I feel like the factory, I feel like in this vehicle, the factory system cuts out at like 60 hertz or so, so you don't really get those low notes. So this does pick up the low notes very well. So it did fill in the, now you're gonna focus on me? There we go. So it did fill in the gap good with the bottom end. So she's happy with it. That's all that matters. Just took me a couple hours. Never worked on this car before, and that's it. Catch you on the next one. Oh, and also before I go, let me know if you guys want to see more of this kind of stuff. Like I always do audio install stuff or whatever. I don't really record it all the time, but it's not much else going on, so I figured maybe I'll put up a video. Maybe people would be interested in what would be involved in adding a subwoofer to your factory system. So hit me up with any questions you have or anything else you'd want to see. All right, Flicarguy out.